My name is David.
Okay. Well, I'm going to be asking you some questions about youth voting. Okay, first question. Do you agree or disagree that we should lower the voting age?
I disagree with the statement that we should lower the voting age.
Okay. Give me a second. Okay, what is your positionality? Like, how have you been affected by the current voting age?
I guess the only way I've been affected by the current voting age is the fact that I had to wait until I was 18 to vote. And the reason I don't believe we should lower the voting age is because I don't believe that individuals are, they don't have their mind straight. They're very malleable, and they tend to vote or have beliefs, knowing why they believe in it, because their parents and their teachers and whatnot could have had a great influence on their beliefs. And whenever they're adults and they get into the real world, or they have to start looking for jobs or go through college, those beliefs may change, and it would essentially be unfair. And to have these people voting for what they can't even understand they're voting for, especially since, when you're a senior, you're barely starting to go through government class, like actual government class, where they teach you the structure of the governments and some different famous court cases. So if you put a ninth grader to vote who's never taken a legit government class that talks about the working of the United States Constitution and some of the famous court cases, then it's going to lead to just blind voting. They're just going to vote based off what they heard, not what they know, and a decision that they came up with in their head. And not only that, if you need to be 18 to get your actual driver's license, why would it make sense to lower the voting age? You're showing these people aren't capable or mentally capable enough to handle the skill of driving, but they can understand the inner workings of our government and make decisions based off of which candidate they want. And the way that they write the actual ballot is very confusing in most cases when it comes to not even just government, like president elections, like simple elections for like things that they want to do in the area where they can go vote. It's worded in a very deceiving manner that anybody younger wouldn't be able to understand. So that's my sentiments, or that's my position on lowering youth voting, or lowering voting age to accommodate the youth.
Okay, thank you. Okay, which argument and piece of data do you believe is the strongest evidence to support your position? Which you already went into. Sorry.
The argument that I would say is that, so if we're not able to have, if it's so wrong to show our IDs to vote, then if we introduce a bunch of youth voters, for one, we wouldn't be able to verify their age without having them show their ID, which creates a whole other problem, because it's very hard to tell how old a person is in their youth versus if they're an adult or not. Secondly, because if they're going to lower the age on voting, then it's going to open the floodgates for lowering the age on when they can drive a car, lowering the age of, other things. I mean, these things are set for a reason, and to go and change it, I feel like it's very politically motivated in order to try to gain extra voters or additional votes for a certain group of individuals. And my strongest argument would be that, the majority of people in their youth tend to lean heavily toward one party. I'm trying to remain unbiased, but they tend to vote toward one party, and I feel like these people know that, and it would, in return, boost their scores, and not scores, but their support, if they can get this untapped demographic to vote, because they know they would just vote in favor of them, because they're so malleable, as I stated earlier. So I believe we should leave it the way it is, because at the age of 18, a person, any individual, is able to think more freely on their own, because they're going through college, they're having more responsibility placed on them. So I feel like introducing the responsibility of voting at the age of 18 when they're having other adult struggles is wise, instead of lowering it down to when they're youthful and they're easily influenced by anybody, including teachers and parents. Oh, and one other piece of information that I'd like to add is that children are mostly influenced by what they see or what's going on in their family when they're in their youth, because they don't know better. So that also shows how it's not really their beliefs, it's just what they've heard that they'll be voting off of. So that's what I have to say about that.
Okay. What are some strategies that we can employ to increase civic engagement and voting numbers among young voters?
I feel like in school, where they're being taught, they should stress the importance of voting. Because when you're in school, they don't really teach you much about the importance. They just tell you, oh, at 18 you have the right to vote. Done. Or, oh, voting wasn't a thing for everybody until this law or this and that. I feel like the importance of voting, especially in little midterm elections, is overlooked and needs to be addressed. And if they want more civic engagement, then they would stress it in school when these, like I said, when these kids are still malleable. That way it's on their radar whenever elections seasons come, and they can go vote for something that they support or don't support. So that, I feel, would be the biggest way to increase civic engagement.
Okay. And what do you think, and what are some strategies that you would do? Oh, okay, never mind, you just answered it, sorry. Okay, please identify interpersonal strategies, like ones that individuals can employ, and institutional strategies, like ones that groups or organizations can employ.
Well, there are groups. So individually, you can use word of mouth, which is one of the most powerful ways of spreading information. You can tell your buddies, you can be like, hey, make sure you vote, and just pass the word along from there, and then it spreads like a wildfire. And whether they go vote is up to them, but at the end of the day, you are taking it upon yourself to spread awareness, tell them to go vote and whatnot. And as a group, groups can rally together, and certain political groups can actually have funding to they be like, hey, go vote, make sure you vote, here's the importance of why it's important to vote. So those are some things that, as an individual or a group you can do, or one of the things rather.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so do you have any connections between discrimination experienced by individuals and larger forces of oppression like capitalism, white supremacy, imperialism, and or patriarchy?
None of the above, but I've heard that, voting can sometimes be unjust or unfair because of gerrymandering and certain things that these politicians will do to try to lower the power of certain areas. So let's say one area is majority minorities and then another is majority Caucasian, then they'll go in there and redistrict and change the amount of power that each individual district will get. And I've heard that's a way that voting can be racist against certain individuals, but have I experienced it? I can't say that I have. And I know other ways voting has in the past been known to be unfair, like with women's suffrage, how women had to fight and even the freed slaves were able to vote before they were. And another thing, African Americans, even though they were considered part of the population, they were considered property and wasn't able to vote even a little bit after till they were free. So those are ways that, I feel like voting has been unfair in the past, but like I said, I have personally not experienced any discrimination or anything against voting.
Okay. That would be all. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you.